Hello and welcome to OptimisticWellness.com, the real story interview series. And today I am delighted to have here Niall Doherty from ndoherty.com. Yes, he is awesome. And we're gonna have an awesome interview here. So Niall, welcome.
Thanks, man. Glad to be on here. Get to chat with you.
Yes. So we'll get right into this. So Niall, we'll start with your earlier years. I always like to ask this question, particularly high school. I'm always interested in how people were in high school. How was your high school self different and similar to your present self, to you today?
Oh, vastly different. I was extremely shy growing up. I think a lot of it was because I grew up in the countryside. I didn't have any sisters, and I went to all boys schools, like all the way growing up. So I didn't have much social interaction, especially with women or with girls. So that was a big thing for me. It's just being social, approaching people. My family, great people, but probably not really the type of people who would, go to a party and talk to everybody. They'd more like rather kind of sit in the background.
Introverted.
Yeah. So that rubbed off on me a bit. And it carried on after school as well. I mean, I was extremely shy all the way up until I was about 22 years old, I think, when I kind of started to turn things around. I think that's the biggest difference between now and then. Also, I didn't really have any direction. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I was kind of happy to just drift through and not consciously think about where my life was going or what I really wanted to, what kind of legacy I wanted to leave behind. I never really thought about those things.
Yeah, most high school kids, it's
yeah.
Until later in life, that's when you decide.
Right.
So yeah, and then we transition here to Six Flags. This was I read about this. This was one of your first, moments of courageous clarity. I'll call it that.
Yeah.
In 2004, you did work there in New Jersey, right by me. How did that shape you into more of a courageous person?
Yeah, that was my first experience living in your fine country. Was a trailer park in New Jersey, right beside Six Flags Great Adventure. At that time, I dropped out of college. I finished my first 2 years and passed all my classes, but I kind of dropped out and didn't want to finish my degree. I didn't really know if it was what I wanted to do. And then I ended up working in a department store for 2 years, I think. And it was just like, there was no passion in the job. It was just to earn money. And I kind of got to a point where I said, I need to do something drastic. I saw another guy working in the same department store who was a happy guy and making the most of it. But he'd been there like 20, 30 years right out of school. And I just thought I couldn't be happy if that's me 20, 30 years from now. So I thought I just needed to make a drastic change. I wasn't happy with what kind of control I had over my life, that I wasn't able to break through all this resistance and shyness that I had. So I took pretty much any job I could get in the States. The US kind of fascinated me because I was a massive basketball fan for many years. So I took pretty much any job I could get. I got a seasonal work visa for Six Flags Great Adventure. I was working as a cash control clerk, really unskilled labor. It was, minimum wage stuff. But that trailer park that they put all us international workers in, right beside the Six Flags theme park, it was like the best environment for me to really come out of my shell, because it was like 300 internationals, maybe more, maybe 500 internationals, all living within like 5 minutes of each other. And it was just like a real kind of college party atmosphere, like really social, like all the Eastern Europeans mixing with all the South Americans, mixing with all the South Africans, the Irish people. And it was just one big social fest. So I kind of had a choice to make when I got there. It was like, I went on my own, first time really living away from home, well, in a foreign country at least. And I kind of said to myself, right, you can be the shy kid that sits in the corner all summer and doesn't talk to anybody, and you can just completely waste this opportunity, or you can step up and introduce yourself to a few people and push yourself out of your comfort zone and maybe have the best summer of your life and really turn your life around. And so I chose door number 2.
You took the red pill.
Yeah, exactly.
Every interview in this series, I've mentioned the Matrix.
Oh, yeah?
Record.
All right.
Record.
Street.
So you took the red pill, the pill of social opportunity.
Yeah, and like the difference in me in those, because I was only there for 4 months, the difference in me when I arrived and when I left was massive. I mean, I still wasn't like super slick social guy, but I'd come. Yeah, I don't know. I still, you can always work on it. I still get some social anxiety every now and then, but yeah, it was a huge difference. I almost had this little swagger walking around the theme park. By the time I left, I was like, yeah, I know these people. I can talk to anybody. So that was big, and I think the reason for it was that I just gave myself no option. It was. I mean, I had those 2 options I mentioned, but it was the pain of stepping out of my comfort zone. Just it became less than the pain of sticking to my shy little corner. So
I always think that humans are more motivated by pain.
Yeah.
So
I think that's true.
Yeah. So you mentioned in there that you love basketball, and of course you have me, a Sixers fan, and I'm cool with you because like we're East and West. We're not that Hornets and Sixers are not that competitive, but you moved to You moved to New Orleans.
Yeah.
And you went there to watch the Hornets games. So
right.
We'll talk about your success there. So how did it finally feel to get that? You got a Hornets press pass to go into the locker room, interview the players after the games. How did it feel to get that press pass that you coveted very much, and also to have your Hornets247.com blog become an authority on the subject of the Hornets? Like, how did that feel?
That was mad. It was a dream come true. Because I actually started that website you mentioned back in 2003, and so I was trying to get to the US for years, really, to New Orleans specifically, because I said, if I'm going to go live somewhere else, I might as well go live in this town where my favorite basketball team plays, that I have an obsession with, and so I can watch all the games and write about the games on the website and see what comes of it. So I started that website in 2003. It was 2007 before I was actually able to get to New Orleans, because I needed to finish my degree, as it turned out, so I could get like a long-term visa, not a seasonal work visa, so I could actually stay in the city for a while. And then I had to find a job, which is not easy because it costs an employer more to hire a foreigner than it does an American. So there was a lot of persistence involved. But yeah, I got there, I got to town. I kind of thought that the Hornets would have a limo with all the cheerleaders waiting for me at the airport. It's like, hey, the Irish guy coming forth to support our team. But that didn't happen. So it took a while. Like I kind of felt when I got there that, I'd be like a celebrity almost, as this fan this guy was such a big fan. He moved all this way and he wants to write about the team. I thought doors would open for me, but of course that didn't exactly happen. So I had to work really hard and make the website really good and respected before I could really get a press pass. So brought another guy on board. We wrote really good stuff. ESPN took notice. We became affiliated with ESPN. Then the team kind of had to take us seriously and give us a press pass. And so, maybe 18 months after I got to New Orleans, before I got to New Orleans, I couldn't even watch a basketball game in Ireland. I mean, I was literally looking at box scores going, wow, he had 7 assists. I bet they were really great. But like 18 months after that, there I was sitting on the baseline in the media section, like watching, my heroes, and then going into the locker room before and after the game and interviewing these guys and like seeing Chris Paul naked. Well, no, that wasn't the highlight, but it was still like, holy shit, is this real? Yeah, that was really big, and I really lived that dream for a while.
And what made you realize that this isn't what I want?
Like when did that dream die? When did I move on from it?
Yeah.
It kind of got to the point where like I lived that dream, and it was going really well, and I was perfectly happy in New Orleans. And then there's that saying, that the price of getting what you want is getting what you wanted. So like your dream tends to change over time. And so I was happy doing the Hornets thing for a while, but then it just got to the point where, I was working my day job 40 hours a week. I was spending another 20, 25 hours on top of that writing about the Hornets, attending basketball games, all sorts of stuff around basketball. And I thought, I started up my own personal blog on the side and started exploring more personal development things. And that started resonating with me more. And I kind of thought, do I really want to devote all this time to writing about 10 guys chasing a ball around a court? Is that really the legacy I want to leave behind? What kind of impact am I really having on the world if I'm writing about sport?
My parents always say, give them all their own basketball and let them be happy.
Why can't they just share more, right?
Yeah, right? Okay.
Everyone's a winner. But yes, that was a gradual thing. It wasn't really like I woke up one morning and was like, I just can't do this anymore. It just kind of started to seep in gradually as my personal blog started to resonate with me more. And I started reading a few books that kind of just made me think that having a 9-to-5 job wasn't best for me. And I started wanting to travel more. So it was a whole evolution, really. And then I just realized I need to leave basketball behind. I've lived that dream, but I can't hold on to that old identity. I need to let it go and become the next version of myself, keep growing.
Niall 2.0.
Yeah.
So let's make a transition here to Ireland. You moved to Cork, Ireland.
Yeah, Orleans.
Yeah, and you were working on your blog, your web design, and then you did something that I love. This is how I heard of you, because I believe Steve Pavlina and I think Leo from Zen Habits tweeted about you, about your random acts of courage thing. So I found that out, and the random acts of courage was like amazing. I was reading like all of your posts and thinking, wow, one day I am gonna do this when I'm a little older, because I love that. So could you tell everyone a little bit more about the project, why you chose to do it, and what are some of the benefits that it gave you?
Yeah, absolutely. It actually came about more as like a side thing, because I'd just written a manifesto for my website, which is just kind of sums up the theme of my site, which is all about thinking for yourself and living your dreams and pissing off zombies, as I like to say. So not settling for that default lifestyle. And I wanted to put together, just kind of sum up that whole philosophy in a short free ebook to give away on my site. But then I said, okay, it'd be cool if I could do something to like draw more attention to my site for this launch. So I brainstormed a bit with a couple of mastermind groups I was in, and I kind of heard of like comfort zone challenges from two places. One was the 4-Hour Work Week, the book by Tim Ferriss. He has some comfort zone challenges in there, just to get more comfortable doing various things. And then Steve Pavlina, who you mentioned, I went to one of his personal development workshops in Las Vegas about 6-7 months before I actually did this project. And he had us do all these power and courage exercises, a lot of which are actually the same as what I ended up doing for Random Acts of Courage. And they were really powerful for me then, and I figured I wanted to try and do this in a more public way and share it with people. So that's kind of how the idea came about. And basically the Random Acts of Courage was 1 week of me going out every day for 5 days and doing 10 things each day that would push me out of my comfort zone. So it was from small things like make eye contact with a stranger and don't look away until they look away first, to kind of things like go into the reception desk in a tall building and ask if you can go up on the roof to have a look at the view, and like try and talk your way up there. So like trying to be more assertive. A lot of the challenges involved flirting and approaching attractive women, and singing in a public place where nobody else is singing, lying down in a department store, going into a restaurant and asking a complete stranger if you can sit down and join them for a meal. So all these things, and I got so much out of it. Like, from one end of the week to the next, I felt so empowered and so much more confident, because I really broke down so many assumptions that I had. And like, I proved myself wrong on so many things. Like, oh, if I go talk to this girl, she's going to just not be interested or reject me. You know, it happened a few times. I went up to attractive girls and I actually hit it off with them, and I was like, oh, you mean this is possible for me? And like, just connecting with people in general, you know, where you kind of think, this person's not going to want to talk to me. And what I really found out is that most people want to connect, but you have to extend that olive branch. And if you do, they'll come to meet you halfway, but you have to be the one to initiate it.
You have to be the proactive one.
Right.
I saw your video, one that I loved. You were doing push-ups in the place, and it went like that and that. And it was funny, because you would think, like, if you asked someone to do that, they'd be like probably so scared, and all the dialogue going off in their head and the anxiety. But when you were doing it, like, people were walking around, no one really noticed. Some guy took a little glance at you and then just walked away. Because you're doing your own thing. No one really.
Right. I was at a conference recently, the World Domination Summit. It's Chris Killabow's thing, which, if people haven't heard of it, you should definitely try and go next year, because it was amazing. But there was a lady stood up. It was like a Q&A session. A lady stood up in the crowd, and she started off her question with a statement that, I think she said, when she was in her 20s, she was really worried about what people were thinking about her. In her 30s, she just stopped caring, or I think in her 40s, she just stopped caring what people were thinking about her. And then in her 50s and 60s, she realized nobody had been thinking about her all along. You know, so like, she was worried about nothing. Like, 'cause we really think that other people preoccupy themselves with like thoughts of us and what they think of us, but people really don't. You know, we're the ones who project our own fears and worries onto other people, but those people have their own fears and worries, and they're not thinking about what we did the other day, or if we look stupid when we did such and such. So
and even when people are thinking about us, they're just projecting their own personality onto us.
Right, and you can't do anything about that anyway, so just let them think what they want to think. As long as you're being true to your values and having fun, doing what you want to do, you know, that's what you got to do.
It's a game you can't win when you try to
Absolutely
get everyone to think positive about you.
Mm-hmm.
So, speaking of what other people think of you and overcoming that, in your blog, and you know, you as a person in general, and my interactions with you, I've noticed, I'm going to say, shocking authenticity. And I say shocking because most people will not share the information that you share on your blog. So for what reason are you able, and like, why do you share some of this very personal information? Like, how does it benefit you as a person?
Well, it's been a gradual thing, first of all. I often say that, like, right now I'm vegan, I'm a minimalist, I'm self-employed, I'm about to travel around the world. I wear those funny Vibram shoes every now and then. I grew some facial hair a while ago. You know, I try all these kind of crazy things, and if I went from who I was, like, as a 22-year-old, say, to all this stuff overnight, you know, my mother would have had a stroke. You know? So it's been a gradual thing, kind of gradually, I feel, becoming more and more myself and being willing to put more and more of myself out there. And as I've gone along, gradually, I've kind of proved to myself that counterintuitively, by putting more of yourself out there, you're not, people actually open up more to you, and people accept you more. Like, I used to worry that if I tell people everything about myself, if they know a certain amount about me, they won't like me. But what I found is, by putting myself out there, most people respect that, even if they don't agree with the stuff that I'm saying or my viewpoints. They'll respect the fact that I'm open about it, and that I'm comfortable with my own. I'm comfortable enough with my own thoughts and values and ideas to put them out there in the first place, and to allow them to be judged and to answer questions about them and to test my own values. Because that's another good thing about putting it out there as well, is it really deepens your understanding of things. Because when you're not willing to express yourself, then your real deep thoughts and feelings and ideas are never really challenged. And when you put them out there on a blog, people are going to comment on it, and it just forces you to think about things a little deeper. So you really get to know yourself better by doing it. So that's been one benefit. And yeah, the other is just, I think people just trust me. My audience trusts me a lot more because I'm willing to talk about, like, my biggest secret that I wrote about on the blog that I'd only ever told 2 people. And at one point I thought it was something I'd take to the grave with me. I talk about, like, I had a post called, what was it, marriage, kids, pornography, and masturbation, where I talked about those 4 things. I mean, I like talking about taboo things. The only downside of that is every now and then I get a few Google hits from people searching for kids pornography or masturbation. But, you know, there's always a little risk.
There is, yeah.
But yeah, I've got a lot out of it. There really hasn't been any strong downside. It's been overwhelmingly positive.
So, yeah, and that's why, you know, I think that's why you're going to be really big, because you're willing to share what most people are just terrified of. And I'm working on it. Like I said, I'm definitely not at your level yet, but that's my goal.
You're way ahead of where I was 10 years ago when I was 19. Way ahead.
Well, thank you. So to conclude this interview, could you just tell us a little bit more about what you're gonna be doing for the next 3 years? You're in Burgos, Spain right now, learning Spanish. Yeah. Awesome stuff. Why you're gonna be traveling the world in various places for 3 years, without a plane, without using any planes, no flying. So could you tell us why you want to do this and what you hope to get out of it, to conclude?
It's probably a few things. I don't think there's one specific reason, but part of it is that it's kind of like the ultimate freedom. You know, I just quit my 9-to-5 job 8 months ago now, and it's just like, if I could spend 3 years traveling around the world doing what I want to do, that's like the ultimate freedom. You know, there's no boss there. You don't have to, like, clock in at a certain time every day. There's no dress code. So that part of it really appeals to me. Like, if I can pull this off, I'll feel like, you know, I've really broken free of, like, conformity. Another huge part of it is I just think travel in itself is it's such a massive opportunity for growth and for education. So I imagine when I finish this 3-year trip, like, I have no idea the type of person I'll be, because even when I look back 3 years ago where I was in New Orleans, all I wanted to do was watch basketball and, like, get drunk, to who I am now, it's completely different. So I imagine that growth will even accelerate more as I'm spending 4 months living in India and 4 months living in Vietnam, and so I'm going to do different places for a while. I'm not going to be constant.
Japan?
Maybe Japan. I don't know. Part of what I want to do is learn certain languages, and I think it'd be better for me to learn Chinese than Japanese, because more people speak Mandarin. So I don't know, but, you know, life is long. I'll probably get to visit a lot of places. I'm just not 100% sure on which ones I'll stay in for a while yet.
Go Japanese. I'm learning Japanese. It's great. It's such a beautiful language. So I'm going to be campaigning to you for that.
Cool, man. I mean, I actually hope to get to learn a lot of languages, because I figure if you know, life is long. If you spend a couple of years really working on learning a language, you can become pretty fluent. So I may get to Japanese at some stage.
It's a great language. Very awesome. So, Niall, thank you so much. Domo arigatou gozaimasu, as they say in Japanese.
What does that means? Thank you very much?
Yes, exactly. Thank you very much for this interview. I loved it. Thank you so much for sharing all this information about you. To contact Niall, check him out at ndoherty.com.
That's it.
ndoherty.com. NDOHERTY.com.
Yeah.
Niall has a bunch of stuff. He publishes, I think, 2 posts a week.
Yep.
Is that right? He's got a strict
That's right.
posting schedule. He posts a video along with each one of his blog posts, and he's not afraid to post what he actually thinks. So check him out. Thank you for watching OptimisticWellness.com, the Real Story interview series. Optimism is the only way.
The only way.